Every case leaves behind fragments. Some are visible, others remain beneath routine. In many investigations, what appears ordinary at first often carries greater significance over time. And sometimes the smallest detail becomes the turning point. Welcome to Zion Case Archive, a structured documentation series where real-world cases are examined through evidence, not assumption. Here, each case is broken down into patterns, timelines, and verified investigative methods, not to sensationalize, but to understand how truth is uncovered. Each episode focuses on process, how events are reconstructed, how information is verified, and how conclusions are formed. In this episode, the focus turns to the disappearance of Mollie Tibbetts, a case later referenced for its use of digital tracking and surveillance-based investigative techniques, where individual data points, when combined, helped establish a complete sequence of events.
Small towns often carry a sense of familiarity. Routines feel predictable. Faces are recognized. Movement rarely goes unnoticed. Patterns develop over time, and those patterns create a sense of stability. In the summer of 2018, Brooklyn, Iowa reflected that atmosphere. Quiet streets, open spaces, a closely connected community. Daily life followed a rhythm that residents understood. It was the kind of environment where routine activities blended into the background. An evening jog, a short walk, a familiar route. None of it typically raised concern. Until one night, it did. And when a routine breaks in a setting defined by consistency, it becomes immediately noticeable.
She was a college student home for the summer, balancing work, relationships, and everyday responsibilities. Like many young adults, her schedule reflected a transition between structured academic life and independent routine. Her days were shaped by familiar patterns: work commitments, communication with friends, and regular physical activity. Those who knew her described a stable lifestyle. There were no confirmed signs of distress, no reported disruptions, no indication of immediate risk. Her routines were consistent, and consistency often creates predictability, which, in investigations, becomes a baseline. Because when a pattern changes unexpectedly, that deviation becomes significant, and in this case, that shift would define everything that followed.
On the evening of July 18, 2018, she went out for a run. It was a normal part of her routine, a route that had been taken before, a time of day that was not unusual. At that moment, there was nothing to indicate that this routine would become a central reference point in an investigation. As the evening progressed, she did not return. At first, the absence did not immediately signal alarm, but as time passed, that absence became more noticeable. By the following day, concern escalated. Attempts to reach her were unsuccessful. Calls went unanswered, messages received no response. That lack of communication marked a clear deviation from her normal behavior. A missing person report was filed. From that moment, time became a structured element. Investigators no longer viewed events casually. Each hour, each movement, each gap was examined with precision. Because in any timeline, what is missing can be just as important as what is present.
Every investigation begins with a fixed point, the last confirmed movement. From there, events are reconstructed both forward and backward. Investigators worked to establish her route using verified information. This included known habits, prior movement patterns, and confirmed sightings. A timeline was built, not from assumption, but from data. Modern investigations rely heavily on visual records. Surveillance footage from residential areas, nearby roads, and surrounding locations was reviewed. Each individual recording provided limited perspective, but when combined, they created continuity. Movement could be tracked, direction could be inferred, timing could be aligned. Within those overlapping records, a recurring element began to emerge. A specific vehicle appeared multiple times within the relevant time frame. Its presence was not isolated. It aligned repeatedly with the established movement window. That repetition shifted it from background detail to investigative focus. At the same time, digital data was analyzed. Phone activity provided timestamps. Communication patterns confirmed normal behavior leading up to the event. When those patterns stopped, the timing became critical. Investigators compared expected behavior with actual data. Consistency was measured, deviations were identified. Because in structured analysis, unexpected change often indicates external influence. Each data point, visual, digital, and behavioral, was not viewed in isolation. They were layered, and as they aligned, the margin for uncertainty narrowed. Eventually, the evidence converged toward a single point of focus. A suspect was identified and formally questioned. The process remained structured. Statements were not accepted at face value, they were tested against evidence. Because in investigative work, confirmation only comes when information aligns across multiple sources.
The individual identified during the investigation became central to the case. This shift did not occur suddenly. It was the result of accumulation, multiple data sources pointing in the same direction. Surveillance footage placed the vehicle within the timeline. Digital analysis supported the sequence of movement. Physical evidence provided additional confirmation. Each layer reinforced the others. This type of convergence is what moves an investigation forward. Not assumption, not theory, but alignment. And once alignment is established, the case transitions from possibility to verification. Court proceedings focused on structured evidence presentation. Each element introduced was tied to a specific point in the timeline. Surveillance footage demonstrated movement. Digital records confirmed timing. Physical evidence supported presence and sequence. Together, they formed a continuous narrative. The defense examined interpretation. They questioned how conclusions were drawn. They explored whether alternative explanations existed within the same data. This process is standard within legal proceedings because evidence must not only exist, it must withstand scrutiny. The prosecution focused on consistency. Each piece of evidence supported the next. There were no isolated elements. Everything connected, and that continuity formed the basis of the case. Following deliberation, a verdict was reached. The outcome reflected the strength, structure, and alignment of the evidence presented. One camera captures a moment, but multiple cameras establish movement. Patterns provide clarity, especially when individual details appear limited. Time functions as both measurement and structure. Even small gaps can reshape an entire timeline. Digital devices record activity, not interpretation. They capture what occurred, not what is assumed. This makes them critical in verifying events. Statements, by contrast, require validation. They must align with evidence to carry weight. Without corroboration, their reliability is limited. Consistency is what gives information evidentiary strength, and in structured investigations, consistency is what leads to conclusions. This case demonstrated the effectiveness of combining multiple data sources. Surveillance, digital records, and timeline reconstruction worked together to establish sequence and accountability. It showed how modern investigations are no longer dependent on a single piece of evidence. Instead, they rely on integration, multiple systems, multiple confirmations, one structured outcome. The case also received widespread national coverage. Public attention increased visibility, and visibility often accelerates the flow of information. It encouraged broader awareness around personal safety, routine tracking, and community vigilance. It also reinforced the importance of investigative method, because beyond the outcome, the process itself became a reference point. Its impact extended beyond the case, into how future investigations would be approached.
Every case leaves questions behind, but some also leave frameworks, methods for understanding how truth is established. This case became one of them, through structure, through evidence, through method. What began as a search for a missing person slowly evolved into something more defined. As the investigation unfolded, each piece of information brought them closer to the truth, but not in the way anyone expected. Not through assumption, not through noise, but through careful reconstruction of movement, timing, and digital traces. Because not every detail is immediately visible, but when information is examined over time, patterns begin to emerge, and those patterns reveal what matters. But not every case begins with a disappearance alone. In another investigation, a single online interaction would set everything in motion. This has been Zion Case Archive, where cases are not just told, they are analyzed.